The service refugee companies chasing patient voice research, what they should know. Currently, the patient voice is trending and is chased as a commercial opportunity by many new kinds of organizations that are not naturally aligned to or experienced in qualitative research. Quite a number of these are what I describe as service refugee companies. And so these are companies that have seen erosion of their initial commercial proposition due to automation, artificial intelligence, and see patient voice as something to pin their new colours on. This is in the hope of finding a new something that is viable and can mitigate the loss of commercial standing elsewhere. This is the plight of many LSPs, language service providers, right now. And it reminds me of the song from the 2000s, "What's That Coming Over the Hill?" Many of them have attempted to shift to a patient voice agenda. While patient voice research cannot be done in a vacuum, some companies attach themselves to this concept without any understanding or grounding of what it is. Few seem to know where the term comes from, which research disciplines, concepts or assumptions it rests upon. They have little idea about how to proceed with even the most basic of qualitative research projects. And yet they're offering this as a service. We have partnered with lots of LSPs over the years to help them with services such as patient voice research, where we've seen that it's been precisely like this. We've noticed a complete absence of in-house knowledge of the subject matter. Nothing at all. Not even the basic terminology or concept of the workflow, how long a typical project takes, or the typical problems that might arise in the course of such a project. They are flying blind. This means that the LSP becomes little more than an intermediary, adding to the process not much more than their own branding. Do their clients knowingly outsource to companies like this? If so, why? When there's so much genuine research expertise out there, do they care? The fake it until you make it approach is a tremendously unethical disservice to patients. Procurement departments of companies commissioning this type of work would do well to take this seriously and be more diligent about who they are awarding this kind of research to. Of course, this is not a sweeping statement that applies to all LSPs. We have partnered with around 15 of them over the years, and some really do take a sincere approach to patient voice research. Some of them I have a great deal of respect for and or a debt of gratitude to. And actually, as an aside, LSPs are generally very well suited to pivoting to new commercial areas, given their international reach, their natural confidence to enter into new markets, and their sheer commercial brilliance. I rarely see better business development people than those who work for LSPs, and competing against them can be terrifying. I know that firsthand. In fact, a handful of these companies saw the opportunity to shift from pure translation and interpreting to more research-based activities more than 2 decades ago. And this includes that US-based one that everybody pretends not to like, but dislike them all you want. You have to give them respect for cornering an opportunity in areas like linguistic validation so early on. And now they are influential in setting the agenda in the sector. At a time when every second person is calling themselves a disruptor, what that company did was real disruption. They caught the more traditional research companies off guard and introduced a whole new model for pricing and turnaround times. And these soon became standard expectations across the sector. And they have set the tone for companies operating in this area ever since. I'm not necessarily saying that this is for the better, but the achievement ought to be acknowledged nonetheless, even reluctantly. And with further erosion of translation services due to AI, the monster by now firmly bounding down that hill, there will be more stories like this in different sectors, in different geographies. This is the great shake-up, or shakedown, however you want to view it. And the point I want to make with this video is this. If an LSP is sincere about transitioning into more research-based services, then they would need to deploy and employ appropriate expertise. deploy in terms of their network of freelancers and strategic partnerships, and employ regarding their own hierarchy, their own staff. Many LSPs we have partnered with in the past tend to believe that they can transition to a new stream of business using the same network of consultants and the same in-house expertise. In other words, the same project team. But the problem is that this causes a mismatch of skills versus requirements. Even with translators who have some experience with soft research skills such as cognitive debriefing, possibly with the exception of health literacy testing, you won't ever find an easier research activity than cognitive debriefing, at least in terms of the ISPOR standards of practice. But a translator is not the same as a professional interviewer. In the same way, an interviewer is not the same as a professional translator and should not be used as such. I am not the same as a professional cardiologist, and I would probably not be best suited to carry out a triple bypass operation. I could try, just as a translator could try, to do a patient voice interview only armed with some experience in cognitive debriefing that they maybe do 2 or 3 times a year, but the results might not be favourable, neither to the heart patient or to the patient voice research. Patient voice research is at a whole other level of complexity than simple cognitive debriefing. So the skill set of in-country capabilities needs to be appropriate to meet these demands, as do the skill set of in-house capabilities. In terms of in-house staffing, if an LSP is experiencing a rise in research opportunities and a drop in translation demand, they would do well to reduce the number of language graduates they employ and increase new hires with life sciences research backgrounds, for example. Better to have research specialists that you can teach project management skills to than project managers with no research skills. Professional researchers would bring instant value to the patient voice research proposition and know instinctively what would take a language graduate literally years to learn on the job. The life sciences researcher or the language graduate or the linguist? That's the question. Which one is more suited to the project management of patient voice research? The project management team should mirror the kind of staff that their own life sciences clients have, and these are life sciences or research specialists. Universities around the world produce hundreds of thousands of graduates specializing in qualitative and quantitative research in life sciences. LSPs just need to go out and get them. Thank you for watching. This was originally written by Mark Gibson in Leeds, United Kingdom, November 2024.